Welcome back to our channel. Have you ever imagined that a small piece of paper could turn a person's entire life into ashes in an instant? A secret buried for decades that seemed to have been dormant suddenly resurfaced, carrying a curse that haunted the past and suffocated the present. And when the truth was revealed not by gunshots or bloodshed, but by a trembling handwritten letter from the dead, that was when the real tragedy began. June appeared on a quiet afternoon. When the gloomy sky seemed to signal an approaching storm, and each cold wind crept through the cracks of the door like an ominous sign. No one expected that the appearance of this young girl would be the beginning of a series of horrifying truths buried under the dust of time, layer by layer. Now revealed in a way that Vernon was never prepared for. In June's hand was an old envelope, the paper yellowed, the edges slightly torn at the corners like traces of time. But inside it was something much more rotten, a secret resurrected from the dead, something Vernon had buried deep in the past in the hope that time would make it forgotten forever. When Vernon took the letter, just looking at the familiar handwriting, a wave of coldness swept through his body. His hands trembled not because of age, but because he realized that the worst thing he had feared for decades, the day the truth would be revealed, had finally arrived. The letter was not simply a few lines of reminiscence from a dying woman, but it was an indictment, an unappealable sentence written with the bitter tears of someone who had loved, trusted, and was ultimately cruelly betrayed. That woman, June's mother, had been a part of Vernon's life, a part that he had tried to erase, tried to ignore. Tried to play the innocent in a tragedy that he was the center of. Vernon knew what he had done, and he also knew that if what was in this letter were revealed, everything he had worked so hard to build, reputation, fame, family, career, would collapse in the blink of an eye like a sandcastle in the ocean waves. He had hidden it carefully. He had erased all traces, silenced those who knew, and was even ready to cut off all ties related to the past. But then fate ironically brought June, the daughter of that woman, back. Like a ghost stepping out of a nightmare, not to loudly demand justice, but to confront him with his own cowardice with a letter and a cold, chilling gaze. In the small room, the pale yellow light cast a gloomy grayness on Vernon's face. He opened the letter with trembling fingers, his eyes scanning each line as if burned. Each sentence, each word was like a knife cutting into his flesh, not because it wrote what he did not know, but because it recreated nakedly what he wanted to forget. That woman knew. She knew everything. She was not as innocent as he thought. She lived with the pain, with the torment, and finally took it to the grave with a message: one day, the truth will find the light. And that day was today. The content of the letter was a detailed account of the dark relationship between Vernon and June's mother, a relationship forbidden, denied, pushed to the brink of death when Vernon chose fame over love. Not only that, the letter also revealed that Vernon was behind a tragic event that caused June's mother to lose everything. Her reputation, her career, even her right to be a mother. He manipulated everything, from the law, the media to the weak and easily manipulated people, to ensure that the secret would never be brought up again. But it was that cruelty that killed her, day by day, silently and coldly. Until at the last minute, she entrusted the whole truth into handwritten lines like a curse, hoping that her daughter would be the one to bring light back to the place that had been swallowed by darkness. Vernon did not know how to face June. She said nothing, just stood there looking at him with cold eyes, as if she knew everything, and was just waiting for his reaction to confirm it. Vernon felt the entire space around him collapse. The walls of the house suddenly became distorted, the ceiling seemed to lower, squeezing him in a suffocating mass of air. He saw old images flooding back, a rainy night, a tear, a plea. And finally the cruel nod that he once believed was the right choice. But that rightness had now turned him into a despicable person. A man who lived like a dead man because he had to wear a mask of morality for years. He wanted to protest. He wanted to justify that it was because of the circumstances, because of the pressure, because of the family's reputation. But he knew, before the naked truth, all justifications were meaningless. He wondered if there was still a chance to fix it, or if it was all too late. June's silence was the harshest sentence he had ever faced. No need to scream, no need for tears, just that look was enough for him to understand that his life would never be the same again. From that moment, Vernon began to be haunted. He saw June's mother in his dreams, saw her standing in the middle of the night, looking at him, not blaming but only sadly, as if asking, "You could have chosen differently, why this path?" He felt himself aging rapidly. Every time he remembered the letter, his heart felt like someone was squeezing it. He was afraid to go out. Afraid of facing people's eyes, afraid of June's silence while she was still in town, a constant reminder that he could no longer hide. He tried to keep busy, to immerse himself in work. But nothing could quell the growing panic in his mind. The secret that Vernon had thought had died with the years was now alive more fiercely than ever. It was not simply a part of his memory, but a monster that was gnawing at every piece of his present life. He knew that with just one wrong step, one uncontrolled word, or one prying from someone, the whole truth would be dragged out into the light. And when that happened, he would lose everything: the political career he had spent his life building, his social relationships, and even the affection of those closest to him. The biggest question now is, will Vernon choose to continue hiding, or will he have the courage to face his guilt and take responsibility? And June? Is she here just to deliver the letter, or does she have a deeper plan, a long confrontation, a journey to regain honor for her deceased mother? Every day that passes is like a silent torture for Vernon, because he himself does not know whether June intends to expose him or not. She does not need to do anything. Her silence is the hammer waiting to fall. Vernon now lives in constant fear, in the obsession that everything can collapse at any moment. That any gaze directed at him could be the gaze that knows the secret, that every congratulations, every compliment, could be a cover for contempt. He wondered if there was any way to redeem himself. But the past could not be changed, and what he had done could not be erased by regret alone. He had chosen the path of fame, and the price of it was a life of guilt for the rest of his life. Vernon was not only facing the past, but also being tortured by his own conscience, every hour, every minute, until the truth or the final collapse took place. From that moment on, everything was no longer the same for Vernon. He could not eat well, could not sleep well, and always lived with the feeling of being watched, being judged by the ghost of the past. He gradually became a shadow of himself, walking through life as if lost in a maze with no way out. Every glance people gave him now contained suspicion. The compliments of the past now became empty. Every meeting, every event, every flash of light was like a guillotine waiting to fall. He doesn't know when June will act. Whether she intends to bring everything to light or force him to live in this state of hopeless waiting. Will Vernon collapse under the weight of his guilt? Or will he struggle to save himself at all costs, including continued lies, betrayals, and manipulations? Is June really here to seek justice for her mother? Or does she have a plan of revenge even more terrifying than the truth? Stay tuned for the next shocking developments where truth, the past, and the price of sin will collide in an inevitable storm. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the shocking details that will continue to be revealed in the next episodes.